Hello and welcome to Wilson Combat. We're at the Circle WC Ranch in Texas, and today the Wilson Combat channel is going to sound a little bit like the History Channel. We're in the 45th anniversary year for Wilson Combat, and we'd like you to get a little background on how Wilson Combat came about, evolved, and came to be the power in the firearms world that it is today. There's one logical person to take us on that ride, and that's Bill Wilson himself. Bill, thanks in advance for our tour and a little walk down history lane.
Okay, well, welcome back to the ranch. Good to see you again.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. All righty. Well, kind of all started with me getting into competition shooting, you know.
Now, how old were you?
18 when I first started shooting PPC, you know, with the Harrison Highway Patrol guys and stuff like that. But probably 21 when I started shooting IPSC type stuff, and that's kind of how the whole Wilson Combat started. You know, I shot my first IPSC match with my old favorite Colt Python, you know, as we were both big fans of. And so the next match, I borrowed a Browning High Power, and did fairly well with that. I think I was third place at the second match with the high power, but that minor power factor, you know, kind of hammered you. So handwriting was on the wall. Well, if I'm going to shoot this game, I need a 45. So got a 45, and basically just a box stock Gold Cup. Bought an extended thumb safety from my old buddy Jim Clark. Put that on there, and actually did pretty well with that gun. But you know how human nature is for competition. Doesn't matter what the sport is. You know, well, if I had better equipment, I would do better, right? You know, when in reality, if I would train more, I would probably do better.
Well, the two aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah, and so, you know, even though I had a completely functional Gold Cup, you know, that I could be competitive with, you know, had to have something better. And so I sent a gun to a big name gunsmith back then, the Colt government model. Came back, I was not happy with it. Sent another one to another big name gunsmith, wasn't happy with it, the way it came back. And so I said, well, shoot, I mean, if I can make clock parts and repair watches, you know, and make jewelry, surely I can work on one of these big guns, you know. And so built a gun for myself, went out, won some matches with it. Friend, you know, one of my friends from Missouri said, well, build me one. Built him one, and he was also, at the time, a pretty good shooter. He won some matches with it and did well with it. So then the next thing you know, other people are asking, and so it's decision time now. I mean, do I continue to work on clocks and watches, which I absolutely dreaded every day, you know, or do I, you know, try to make a living working on guns, you know? So, you know, basically I made the switch from doing something I didn't like to do that I wasn't making any money on to doing something I like to do that I wasn't making any money on. That was the start there, you know. So, you know, and then it gradually evolved, and looking back on it, actually it evolved fairly rapidly. You know, went from a one-man shop to, you know, having a couple of other guys helping me relatively quick, you know, within the first couple of years, something like that.
Now, did the first product look kind of like that big guy?
The very first products we did a 3 Series, you know, gun. Everything back then, people sent their Colts in, and they're pretty much all 45. And we did 3 basic packages. We did a 110 basic, which was basically reliability, fixed sights, good trigger pull, bevel magwell.
Now, when you say reliability, we're talking throating for hollow points and semi-wide cutters?
The polishing the feed ramp and the barrel throat, and most importantly, properly adjusting the extractor. You know, because 1911s are a control round feed, as you know, and you need that proper extractor tension for the cartridge to feed up under the extractor and it to be able to hold the case firm as it ejects. If you don't have tension on the case rim when it extracts the empty case, you get very erratic ejection, and sometimes you don't get ejection. So that's actually more critical to function than polishing the feed ramp for most guns, is to get the extractor correct.
Now, what was the second level of quality you offered?
Then the second one, we call it a 120 competition model. And it basically was the same thing as the basic, except we put an ambi safety on it and it come with Packmeyer grips. I think that was about the only upgrade on it. And then this is what we called a 130 master grade. This was you know, our level 3 gun that we built back then. And you got the adjustable Bomar sights, you got the hard chrome frame, and a few other niceties. You got the commander hammer, and you know. So this gun was built somewhere between 1979 and 1981, probably. You know, so it's a pretty early gun. And from there, we learned a few things, and we got, you know, more capabilities. This is probably a late 80s gun, maybe even as late as 1990. And it's got, you know, some real nice hand cut checkering, you know, on the front strap and back strap. You know, it's got a real nice hard chrome finish on the gun. Real nice, you know, Bomar barrel fit up. And then, you know, this is after the beaver tails, you know, become popular, which, you know, is almost a necessity anymore. I mean, you can hardly buy a 1911 one that doesn't have some form of a beaver tail on it now.
Yeah, it's really become almost standard.
Yeah. So this is a later gun before we started building complete guns. You know, this is, you know, somewhere very, very late 80s, early 90 vintage guns.
Now, you're among the pioneers of the comp guns. Tell us about that.
Well, that whole comp gun series started, you know, with John Shaw and my old friend Jim Clark and the pin gun, you know, which is basically just a weighted barrel. It wasn't a compensator, it was just a weighted barrel. And that soon morphed into, well, if, you know, why don't we add weight and put a compensator on it to try to push the muzzle down. And, you know, for IPSC competition, this almost immediately become a must-have, you know, to be competitive.
I remember.
Yeah, I mean, once that transition started, I mean, it was within a year, everybody went from shooting standard guns to comp guns, you know. And so this is an early comp gun here in 45, you know, because there for a long time, everybody shot 45 until I think it was Brian Enos that kind of started the whole 38 Super craze.
Yeah, him and Rob Latham.
Yeah, and so then
They were using Wilson guns to start too, weren't they?
Yeah, that's back when we were building guns for both of them. And this is my last competition gun for IPSC here. And it's 38 Super, got a supported chamber barrel on it. And we got the compensator, and then I like the heavy gun for extra recoil control. So this is just nothing but a weight to help mitigate muzzle jump on it.
Can you tell our listeners who may be kind of new to the concept and missed that part of the history why you needed the supported barrel with the 38 Super?
Because we loaded them like way over max. I would almost be afraid to know some of the pressures that we shot 38 Super in the old days, you know, to make major power factor.
Because they made major and activated the compensator better.
Yes, and you know, of course, back then that's when major was major. I mean, it was 175,000 power factor, you know, and so I'll guarantee you none of the loads that we shot by the tens of thousands in those days were under Sammy Max. So from there, we jump up quite a bit. Now this pretty much showcases all the nice things that we do on these guns. I mean, it's you know, as you can see there, it's a pretty full house gun and a beautiful gun. It's almost a piece of art, and so this kind of showcases, you know, the finer things that we can do to one. I mean, there's, you know, a whole lot of stuff here that's not necessary for a gun, but it sure is nice and sure is pretty. And from there, we got the latest greatest, which is our SFX9 series. SFX9 stands for solid frame X-Tac pattern 9mm. The great thing about these little guns is the grip's extremely thin. I mean, the grip's as thin as most standard 1911s on it. So the gun does not have a tendency to want to turn in your hand under recoil, especially if your hands are sweaty. You know, you get a really good purchase on the gun. The gun just recoils straight up, you know, straight back and forth. And with the 4-inch, cone type barrel, these things come back on target really fast. I mean, you shoot and you're right back on target, ready to shoot. While I'm not personally a huge fan of the dot sights, this is my favorite model right here. It's a 15-round 4-inch version of the SFX9. This gun with iron sights is what I shoot most of the time. But whether we like it or not, the whole dot sight deal it's the end thing. I guess eventually I'll get to where I can't see the sights at all, and I'll migrate that way with everybody else. But at least now, out to 20 yards, I feel like I can shoot irons, better than I shoot a dot sight. So I'll just stick with irons from now. So anyway, that's
to each what works for them best. Now, Bill, what's the caliber choice breakdown in terms of popularity as of now?
Well, since we do so many X9 series guns, I mean, overall, 9mm is probably 65% of our sales. But within the 1911s, it's right now pretty close to 50-50. We've seen a little bit of resurgence of the good old 45 over the last year or so.
One thing I've noticed over the years is, in the old days, it was only SWAT cops who were allowed to carry 1911s or Texas Rangers. And now, amazingly, in the time of the high-capacity, lightweight polymer guns, we're seeing more 1911s on the street. Are you seeing that too?
I would say the majority of the 1911s that we build for customers are for self-defense. As you know, we're not that heavily into the competition, marketplace anymore. I mean, most of what we build is our, everyday carry, self-defense, home defense.
Bill, thanks so much for taking the time to bring our viewers up to speed on what you've been doing and where you're going.
Okay, thank you.
And gang, don't forget your comments are always welcome here at the Wilson Combat Channel. We'll look forward to seeing them. We learn from you like you hopefully learn from us. We'll see you down the road.